So 21, I actually tied for the number one LO in the company while running the lot desk at the same time. So I mean, I was working just absurd hours, like trying to keep up with everything. And I was like, I put so much time into the lot desk. If you can just give me this opportunity to be an LO, like I really think I can take this to the next level. And that's so we decided to do that. So 2022 is my first year that we did that. And I think I hit 40 something million that year as my first year in 22 when I really did it. And then, like you said, last year we did 53 million. And then this year we've done about 25 through April. So things are still growing, progressing every year. We've progressed a little bit. And I think that's been the most fun and what I love, taking the competitiveness of baseball and sports and, you know, the harder you work, the more you do, the more rewards you get. Right. And it's the same thing for being an LO. And I think that's really clicked for me and why I enjoy what I'm doing right now.
I absolutely love that story. It's so fun knowing your dad so well and his work ethic, and I just see so much of him and you, and the fact that you came into this business, did not start as a loan officer, took a low paying job just to learn the business, build your way up, and transitioned out of 2021, the best year in history, into 2022 to become a loan officer. Most people wouldn't make that change, and a lot of them that did have not succeeded, and yet you have just thrived from that point forward, and I love your whole concept about the importance of work ethic and all those things. So let's unpack some of those things because you just said so many important things in there that I wanna key in on, and let's start with the first thing. You started as a closer, you moved to the lock desk, you were doing record production within the lock desk when you were doing that, and was it allowed you to move into that business. We're gonna get into the high production because I know that's what everybody wants to hear is how are you creating this high production? But before we get into that, I wanna hear from you a little bit more about how understanding the backside of the business really has kind of formed and trained and changed the way you view applications and quality and conversations with your customers because what I see a lot of out there today, all the years that I manage salespeople and all the companies that I've trained, I've always said the best thing you can ever do with your employees is cross train them. Let loan officers spend time on a processor's desk and an underwriter's desk and a closer's desk to understand the ramifications. How has that coming into the business on the backside forged your thought process as it regards to quality on the origination side?
I mean, like I said, it was truly invaluable for a couple reasons. I would say one, absolutely quality. Getting understanding how important the very first time you take the app, asking those questions, how important it is to get the information that you need because you know that in 30 days, if you don't do this right, it's just going to be an absolute firestorm,
Yep.
right? And every little detail matters. And as you said, through each process, the best you can do, the file can't be good if when it starts is bad. It's only as good as it starts. As we know, there's a lot of people in the transaction that help us get to the closing table. It's not just the LO. But if it's up to you, I mean, it's you. You have to take ownership of the file. And so if you sit there and do it, halfway, you can't expect the processor to take it any other way than halfway, and then the whole deal's done the wrong way. And then I think the other part of it that really was important was, I always was told you have to be the smartest person in the transaction, right? You have to be the smartest person in the transaction, whether that's the real estate agent, the borrower, the customer, the listing agent, anyone in the transaction. If there's another lender on another deal, you got to be smarter than them, right?
Yep.
You have to be able to take that control. And the more control you have, the more knowledge you have, the more confidence you will have and confidence that you can instill in the people in the transaction and create that level of trust with them. Because the more trust you have within the transaction, anytime that something goes wrong or awry or out of the ordinary, instead of everyone panicking and doing bat flips and calling you and panicking, they're going to call and just say, "Hey, what's going on?" You tell them, and then you move on. You find a way to fix it, and the less trust you have, the more those fires feel on your shoulders and everyone else. So I think it's just the confidence of understanding everything from how the closing disclosure is prepared to how the package is prepared. And, people will ask me questions that I know the log desk, the secondary market, how all of these things work, and it's that knowledge as a combined gives me so much confidence, when I'm talking to people when they ask me questions, and I can pretty much answer about any question someone asks me. That allows me to be confident with anyone I talk to. And I think when you have that level of confidence to you when you speak with people, that makes them think, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's going to take care of this. If there's an issue, he'll find a way to fix it, and we'll get this deal closed. And once you get that trust off your back, people just, you just roll them out, at that point. So I think that's the other part of it. It's just the more knowledge you can have, the more confidence you can have, and the more trust you can build with everyone. And that's, I think, why it was so important to not start straight out in sales and run around and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, send me a deal," and not know. And for some people that works great. I think it's a personality thing too. For me, I'm not just a huge outgoing personality by any means, but I've been successful still in a sales role. I don't view it as a sales role. I think that's what's helped me. I view it as people come to me looking for a solution with their problem, and it's just my job to give them a solution. It's not my job to sell them on something. They want a mortgage. You know, the realtor wants the deal to close. The realtors want someone to help you get deals closed. You don't have to sell yourself or your company or anything. You just have to show them that you're an asset and you can solve these problems for them. And then you show them that, and then they'll keep coming back.
All right. Well, I've been doing this for a long time, as you know, Hunter, and I got to tell you, for a 27-year-old guy, you had enough wisdom that you could be my age with what you just said in that. That was pure gold. That was absolutely pure gold. You said four things that I have absolutely believed and taught forever that I love that you said. Number one, you're doing very high quantity of loans, but your focus is quality first. And this is a message that loan officers need to understand and need to hear from somebody other than Dale Vermillion. And I'm so glad that you're telling people this message that if you do it right the first time, then you're not dealing with all the problems the second, third, and fourth time that drag you away from the ability to create more business. And you actually do more quantity when you have better quality. And then you talked about the importance of being the smartest person in the transaction, knowledge, having knowledge of your market, having knowledge of your partners, having knowledge of your products. Those things are absolutely critical, but also having knowledge of the process, knowing what happens so that you can prepare your clients and your partners for that. And then you talked about the importance of having that trust with the clients, building that trust so that they know that, look, if I give a deal to Hunter, it's going to get done. And I know that's the reputation you guys have created. That's what you stand on at First Trust. And I know you as an individual loan officer, I heard you, I had the benefit yesterday of being in Little Rock with you and the whole team for you guys' annual conference and got to listen to you talk on a panel where you talked about some of these things and the importance of those. I think what you just laid out right there is such gold for loan officers to understand that you don't need to rush, you don't need to do it sloppy, you need to do it right, and you need to know your business. You need to be the person that is polished when you get on the phone so people can trust you, have faith in you, and do a good job. I just absolutely love that.